Today is February 18th, 2024, and this is the WNY Rapport with Paula Collins, attorney, and Nikki Lawley, medical cannabis advocate. And we are here to talk about all things cannabis and Western New York. So, Nikki, you are in a different setting. Why don't you tell us what's going on? Where have you been?
I have been in Albany for the caucus, and it was super interesting. It was my Virgin Caucus voyage. So I was on my way home, and I'm thinking, I don't have my laptop, so how am I going to go live? Because this has been a disaster before. And lo and behold, I'm coming down the road, and boom, Slay, there's Del Largo Casino right out there.
Wait, did you say boom sleigh?
Boom, Slay. Yes, I did.
Boom
And
sleigh.
boom, slay. That is a Nixter term. And I was like, well, they've got to have a computer center in there so I can use a laptop instead of the tremendous phone asset we have. And so I pulled here and got a comp room because I haven't used it in like a zillion years. So there you go. I'm at Del
There you
Largo
go.
so that we could still go live. And hey, I hope it's working. So Paula is going to be monitoring the chat because this girl doesn't want to touch any of the settings because of our last technical disaster while Nikki was on her phone. So, Paula, I believe you have some news to share.
Okay, wait. I want to make sure that we are live on LinkedIn.
I really hope we are.
Dun, 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 dun.
I can't ask anyone, or I'll lose us forever. Any LinkedIn,
Hmm.
any LinkedIn pals, chime in the chat that only Paula can see.
Okay, it seems like it popped up. Yeah, it says live. Two attendees, but so far I think it's just us.
Okay. All right. Well, so they can catch up later. They can boom slay and throw.
I'm seeing you on LinkedIn Live. Thank you, Dr. Ruth Fisher. Thank you so much.
Yay!
Another voice heard from, and Marianne Morrison. Yes. So
Yes.
thanks for joining us. We have some very good energy in the house right now. So let's see. It has been an eventful week. How about that OCM meeting this week? Now, wait. I want to back up because this is the WNY report. Why would somebody from Western New York cannabis get in a car and drive clear across the state to caucus? What is the purpose?
So this is my first caucus, and I'd heard people talk about it, and I really didn't have any clue what it was. This particular caucus was for um, the Black, Hispanic, and Asian congressional leadership. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, but basically, it was all people of color that, you know, they were addressing issues within their community. And we had the political ears of many politicians, including, right on down to mayors and, people that handle little city government. But it was an amazing, crazy week. And I say that because if you're in cannabis, you know who Nikki Lawley is. You just do. I mean, not like I'm bragging, but I'm
Yeah,
just saying
in New
a
York
lot of
cannabis,
people.
definitely. Yeah,
Um,
the
but
dots. I hear the name Nikki and I see dots.
that's all. Yeah. A little, yeah. So, but walking into this place, no one knew me. And it felt so weird. It felt so like I was out of place. Like nobody's talking about the dots. No one wants to connect. No one's connecting with the dots. Like, what's the deal? And but then slowly people started trickling in. But our majority leader, Crystal People Stokes, is she sponsored several of the cannabis bills in New
Speaking
York.
of
And so
Western New York, because Crystal People Stokes is from Buffalo.
I'm a constituent. And we kept running into each other the whole event. It was kind of funny. But I only got one set of selfies because I didn't want to be obnoxious. And I met Kristen Gildebrand today, I might add. And my friends from Canna Coverage were there with me for that. That was exciting. Dr. Lakeisha came in from New York City. Nicole Ndaye is a hemp farmer, first black hemp farmer, and she was like instrumental in doing stuff. I met peeps from New Jersey, this chick Melly and this chick Lindsay, super cool humans. Um, I feel like I'm missing someone. Kanisha, I think.
And you saw
Um,
Cheryl Murray Powell.
Cheryl Powell Murray. I saw Jeffrey Hoffman and his partner. I saw Tom Ballestara, who, speaking of WNY rapport, got his micro license. Boom slay, Tom. Boom slay. Boom, boom, boom. And he
Boom Slay.
grows the best fire flower ever. So I'm super happy that Jeffrey and like I happen to be on LinkedIn and they're like, hey, we're at City Beer Hall. Come on down. And I'm like, I do not like driving in Albany. I'm going to be honest. Lots of parallel parking. Um, and this girl does not parallel park, I repeat. And, but anyway, so I Ubered over and I got to hang out with this awesome chick, Brenda from the OCM, who handles a lot of the social equity
Oh,
issues.
really?
Jeffrey, his
Cool.
me, Tom Ballestara. Tom was one of the mentee program people. And so I think he worked with Brenda a lot in that aspect because Tom volunteers his time or has volunteered his time to help, new applicants kind of navigate how to do the application process. So super excited he got awarded a hero. And then we also have Good Times Trees, which they have a killer strain that actually works phenomenal for me called Emergency. So I'm rather excited to see them flourish and bring their products to market. They have a very unique terp profile. I shared my medical cannabis with everyone at Caucus. I sat with people I'd never ever engaged with, and like they knew nothing about cannabis, like nothing. Like I was literally in a room that just craved my knowledge. And then they'd find out I had cannabis, and then I'd like open up my pack, and I was like, "Woo, what you got in there, sis?" And
So wait, why
you
were
know,
why were they there if they know nothing about cannabis? Were they politicians?
they were all politicians. They were all assembly people, all Senate people, like really political humans. Like people from the Office of Cannabis Management were
And
there.
they know nothing
People
about
from New
cannabis.
Hey, hey, hey. Some
Some do,
do.
some do.
Um, some really do. But it was super wild to see how it all goes down. And can I tell you, these people get down and boogie and like the music loud and like they're doing disco stuff. I mean, like it's a group, right? And they were fun. It's just when you go to a cannabis event, everybody's outside toking. When you go to like a political event, everybody's been accustomed to drink. So everybody's drinking instead of medicating. It's just a whole different vibe.
Okay.
You know what I'm trying?
So,
And you're
okay, let me
screaming.
put this into the mix. Suppose New York began to have a viable THC beverage industry, and I think Western New York is really well positioned for that. You know,
I would
there's
love.
the space for the
Um,
processing because that's a whole lot of processing equipment to make cannabis beverages. Isn't Heirloom in Rochester or are they in Buffalo?
they're closer to Rochester, but they're not actually in
They're in, I
Rochester.
know where they
They're
are. They are in, is it Victory? Victor,
Victor.
Victor, Victor, New York.
Yeah, so they're out. Yeah. Um, and I don't know. I learned a lot, and I got to connect with like a lot of exist. Oh, Bougie Stoner was there. Bougie Stoner.
Oh,
She's so
yeah?
cool.
Cool.
Yeah,
What
awesome.
about Tiffany Walters?
And Lee Walters was there. Thank you for that remembrance. Um, I met a lot of people that know me, but I don't know them. So I'm like taking pictures and I'm trying to tag people in the thing. And I'm like, dude, I don't know who this guy is. But then somebody said, oh, he's real important. He's some senator from somewhere. I'm like, great. Well, I'd love to tag him, but I forget who he
How
is.
about Deshita? Was
Um,
Deshita there?
oh, Jashida was there for sure. We had fun. She was like, I mean, I crossed paths with the majority leader several times. Deshita as well. Deshita was like my 411 on where to go for
Okay,
events
good.
because I never navigated this. It was literally like everywhere you went, there was no food.
Right.
Like the restaurants of booze, sold out of food.
Yeah.
I waited 2.5 hours Friday night for some sliders. Like
I'm
seriously,
amazed
two
that
and
you
a half
I'm
hours.
amazed that you even got a hotel room.
I got an Airbnb with Nicole, Dr. Lakeisha, uh, Canna coverage. Like there was a bunch of us staying at like a big, beautiful, like mansiony
Okay,
Airbnb
cool.
on Madison, and it was like perfect. I mean, it was like really great people there, great vibes. It was just
Okay.
it was really a unique experience, and like I'm still taking it all in, still processing. I wanted to try and get home tonight, but then I'm like, you're never gonna make it. Like
Well,
my legs just down the hall were like
yeah,
death.
better
Like,
safe
are
than
you serious?
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So enough about me. Now let's hear about you, pal.
Me, pal. Well, let's see. A lot happening in cannabis. Oh my goodness. Why do you have to come up right now? Oh my.
Because if it's in the house, that's why.
This is Figo.
If Ruth Fisher is still, because she is a cat lover, and my cat, whenever I'm on the phone with Ruth Fisher, like
Okay.
automatically comes.
So let's try this, and then in a few minutes she'll scamper away. So, yeah, it was an interesting week because we heard from a lot of people with regard to licensing. And
Whoa, whoa, whoa! News,
you're
pal.
talking about me. Well, I'm Paula
Okay,
Collins, and I
like
am running for Congress in New York's 21st Congressional District, which is
boom,
boom sleigh.
hey,
Um, so where is
you
the
should put on.
21st Congressional District? It now, the big news of the week really was that the congressional district lines got redrawn. That's been an issue in New York. And so I lost a county, but I got another county. And I went from having coverage of 15 New York counties to now having 18. So I don't know if you know how this works, but after the census,
No.
after the census, they carve up the map of the United States and determine that in this case, every 779,000 people get lumped into a congressional district. So that's why in the city, you'll see a couple of different congressional districts per zip code. Not that's an exaggeration, but for example, Manhattan now has a couple of different congressional representatives. But then you go up to rural New York where there are more cows than people. Uh, it takes that much land mass to add up to 779,000 people. So I have, well, let's see. Can you see this? No, you can't see that
No.
very well. So I now have rent parts
Over.
of Rensselaer, Washington County, Warren County, a little part of Saratoga, Essex, Clinton,
Oh,
Franklin, St. Lawrence, a little tiny sliver of Jefferson, but I lost Watertown and Fort Drum. They were in my
mm,
district until last week. I have Lewis. I
bummer.
have a little part of Oswego, most of Oneida, Herkimer, a little tiny top of Otsego, Montgomery, Shahari, Fulton, and did I say Hamilton? Hamilton.
I
So
don't.
it's a lot and it's very exciting, but here's why I'm running for Congress. We need,
Please
I
tell
will
us.
tell you why I'm running for Congress. I think that there are a lot of voters who have been forgotten. And I'm running as a Democrat, but I would say there are people who have been forgotten on both sides of the aisle. But, our Republican representative for that district, Elise Stefanik, has been in that seat for 9 years. And during that time, we have seen a greater divide between the two parties. And what happens every time the parties go further and further apart, the people who are right in the middle just get lost. So I'm running to represent those people who feel lost, who feel like their voice is simply drowned out. We have farmers there are fewer dairy farmers every single year, and yet we can't even pass the farm bill. We were supposed to renew the farm bill by the end of 2023, and in that is insurance, like crop insurance and price protection, and also reporting. It's been 3 years since we've gotten a report on what's called the dairy check, which is, how you see those ads for got milk? Well, that's because every time dairy is sold by a farmer, a little tiny portion goes into this fund, and we haven't gotten the report in 3 years about what that money is being used for. We have no idea. Seems a little sketch, right? The other thing that's a hot topic in probably in Buffalo, as well as like parts of Jefferson County, St. Lawrence, Clinton, um, the the immigration bill, which or the immigration issues are that from the southern border, people who can't get in the south, they are coming around and going into New York from Canada. And so literally farmers in the Adirondacks, farmers will go out to their barns and lo and behold, there's a whole family sitting there in their barn and they crossed over during the night. So what do you do? I mean, are you gonna be compassionate and try to hide them or try to feed them and clothe them? Or are you gonna call Homeland Security? Um, and it's quite a dilemma. And I think most people think, yeah, I want to help. I don't, I feel for these people, but I also can't put my own family at risk. I can't put my community at risk. And I don't know what to do. And what we really need is for a Congress Congress has not passed significant immigration reform since 1986. It's a long time ago. And the bill that we have, I mean, the laws that we have right now are completely irrelevant to the situation that is unfolding before our very eyes. The other issue that's before us is AI and social media, and we want Congress to be proactive and develop some kind of policy with regard to AI before it gets out of hand like the social media policies did, as we heard in testimony before Congress last week. So, those are the reasons I'm running. If anybody is listening in from the 21st Congressional District, please consider voting for me. If in doubt, go to house.gov, and at the top right hand part of your screen, you will be able to type in your zip code and see what congressional district you're in.
Well, thank you for that helpful hint. Paula, what's the cannabis scene like in that district, in that 21st district?
Well, it's very
Mm.
interesting because it is a bipartisan issue in that district. There are a lot of farmers who may have voted Republican, but who do enjoy their cannabis both to smoke and to grow. And I'm hoping that the message that I bring that, our congressional people have been so busy with these partisan politics issues that they haven't taken the time to do things like pass the Safe Banking Act or pass the MORE Act or pass anything else that would give us greater access. We also have That's also a district that has a lot of older people. Basically, as it was put to me, is if you don't retire to Florida, you retire to the Adirondacks, which is very true. Um, but think of your role, Nikki, with the older population and the fact that people are continually turning to the plant-based remedies like cannabis as opposed to opioids and other the non-steroidal uh, remedies. And why not turn to a plant remedy rather than a chemical remedy? So
One,
I think that my message is, as a cannabis tax attorney, will, on first blush, will get some attention. It already is getting some attention. And then hopefully people will start to listen to my message.
boom. Well, you got my support.
Boom.
Not in your 21 first congressional district, so I don't even know who my person is, but we'll just leave it at that. Um, I learned how uninformed I am about the political situation. I always, not always, but like in the last 4 or 5 years, I've really kind of understood. So I thought a lot of how the policy things go and how things work in the government. I'm like, I just got like put in my place. I'm a flippin' infant in this sector. I really am. Like, you think cannabis is confusing? Hell, throw cannabis and political stuff in the same
Mhm.
party, and it's not like a fun party. It's just not.
Mhm.
Um, and there's so much lack of understanding. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like, I was doing something dirty bringing out a gummy, like the stigma was still there, but we're always learning and people don't know what they don't know. So, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, right or left, it's so important to pick one because independents just take away from the right or the left and preach to what side you should be on, but you have to like align with a party that most resonates with your values. Not so much a person, not so much anything, but if, you know, core values is what comes down to what political party you should really be part of. And for me, I mean, it's no secret which one I'm part of, even though I'm wearing red. Um, I truly believe that's the party that accepts cannabis more, that accepts a lot of lifestyles more. That doesn't mean like, I don't know. I have a lot of middle of the way values, so it's really difficult to be so black or so white, literally from a standpoint of where you lie on your personal value space, right? So
Well, it's interesting
challenging everybody.
because we were just joined by someone from Germany, Crystal Sylvia Fischer from Germany. Welcome. And, it's interesting because ours is one of the few countries that still has just a solid two-party system. Other countries but other countries are parliamentarian based. In other words, their democracies work in a different way than ours does, and it's not better, it's not worse, it's just the way it is, and it will take a long time for us to debunk the two-party system. We've had many, many people try it. Think of Ross Perot way back from Texas back in the day. And then, more recently, we had Bernie. More recently, we have now this go round, we've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's probably going to be doing a third party bid. But um, it's difficult because you want to resonate with a person, you want to resonate with a platform, but you also need to think about, for example, in our situation, we've got, some very strong differences between the two main parties. And if you're very fearful of one party, then you need to make sure you align with some pathway to supporting the party that is kind of the least desirous, I guess, which
I
seems a
get
little
it.
bit wimpy, but it is the reality.
It's the reality from everything from funding to census to, what happens in the entire political system. And that's what I'm learning more and more and more and more. And when you have a candidate that supports something, if you don't support that candidate in a way that can help get them elected, like I heard, and I don't know this Stefanik human, but so many people when we talked about you running were like, "Oh God, thank God, we need a new candidate. We need someone new down there. It's
Oh my
just not
goodness, so
working
you
out."
talked about it. That's amazing.
Oh yeah, I talked about it with Jeffrey Hoffman. I talked about it with like several people,
Okay,
and
good. Thanks.
yeah, and they were, I'm like, "What do you think?" You know, and they're like, "Oh, well, it's time for a change." The same thing for 9 years, whatever it is. And, so I mean, I heard no negative feedback. Let's put it that way. Hey,
Okay. Well,
whatever
so
works.
far it has been very, very positive, and it is igniting a certain amount of hope um for a lot of different reasons, and so I hope to really ride on that. I need money, um I need organization, and so I'm working on that. And like you got an education this week with caucus. I've gotten quite the education on how much behind the scenes it takes to launch a campaign. I mean, it's not just printing up a couple of t-shirts and hats. It's
No,
I spent
it's a whole
I
thing.
spent a lot of time today on a survey from Ballotpedia, which is kind of like a voter's guide to each candidate, and an extensive survey. I spent another, chunk of time on a local county endorsement survey. I've been reaching out to labor unions. I've been reaching out to um, my
They were
own
there.
union, which is the who was
Unions,
there? NICET?
unions were there representing.
Oh, good. Well, what's interesting is, who was it? I spoke with someone this week they just got a license and they went with a different union. They went with the Teamsters. They got
Hmm,
the Teamsters to sign off on their labor peace agreement.
that's
So we
cool.
ought to talk about that because that's still, 2.5 years or almost 3 years into New York cannabis. We're still trying to figure out. I'm going to move my table so I can prop up my computer. But we're, still when I talk to people about, all right, let's let, they, they've sent you a deficiency statement. We need to address your deficiencies. And consistently, one of them is the labor peace agreement. And so people will say, oh, and they'll start cursing and say, why do we have to unionize? Well, we're not asking you to unionize. What we're saying is that once you get 10 full time employees, um, that you would be open to them discussing unionization. It doesn't mean that it's happening. It doesn't mean that on day one you're going to be a union shop. It does mean that when you reach a certain scope of activity, that you know we want you to at least not stand in their way of unionizing. That's all it is. And hopefully you're a decent enough human that what you see in that is you're not going to stand in the way of fair wages, fair hours, fair working conditions, and then basic benefits, which by the way are required by New York state law anyway, meaning health insurance, paid family leave, paid sick leave. That's all it is. And so when you drill down on it, the labor peace agreement is really not that big of a deal. I mean, it is big in that they're requiring it. New Jersey was the first one that I was aware of that required it, and then I was really, really happy when New York required it as part. If you're planning on success, before you get going, before we even give you the license, here's the labor peace agreement that you need to get. You need to at least have a conversation with somebody from the union to sign off on this.
So while we're on that topic, let's move right on into the OCM meeting. And 9 licenses were awarded.
There were a lot of licenses awarded. I was able to watch about half of the meeting, and then I had a client call, but um, there's still some tension there, but it was functional. Would you say that's a fair description?
So I only watched very little of it because I was a caucus. Um, but the part I saw was kind of different for me. The part I saw was like how much Blue Dream we sold and how much um
Mm,
I didn't get its relevance, quite honestly. I mean, I guess like because I came in the middle of that. That's like what I came in, and I'm thinking for all the time it took you guys to put that presentation together, you probably could have licensed 5 more people.
oh, that's pretty
and
funny.
and I mean, I'm not being mean. But I just really thought that this was going to be more totally focused on licensing. And then when they threw out that they have distributors now, we have more cultivators, more processors, um, micros, adult use retail. I was not prepped in my mind for all those other license categories to be part of that meeting. I thought it was really just going to be the retail and the micros because that was kind of what we had been talking about. So, again, I feel like we really need some kind of liaison between the political scene and the community scene, meaning I need to be able to understand what is being covered in a meeting and be able to communicate that to the public. I'm not saying I'm that person, but in theory, they need someone like me, in my opinion, or someone better suited to explain law stuff. But we need to understand what's going on. Like to me, that was just kind of all a surprise. I mean the agenda really sometimes doesn't like I didn't see
Mhm.
anything about being schooled on what was the top strain we sold in New York, And again, I didn't watch the whole thing, so I mean, I'm really not speaking from an educated point, but
Well, I think that was the economic report, right? Where they were talking about how much tax revenue and how much product has been sold. What are the revenues like? And that is important to know. Um,
it,
I
I'd
think
see
if
it
I
for it.
what was that?
I just didn't feel like that was the place it should be discussed. I felt like that should be a different meeting because everybody's so up in arms about the licensing that like let's get them open, let's get them going.
Yeah. Well, and you know, we did hear Jennifer Gilbert Jenkins advocate for no cap on the licensing, which will basically render this whole lottery system moot if we don't have. I mean, it'll just mean that you're further down on the list, but eventually we'll get to you, which has its own problems, right? Because if everybody else has opened, um, and then you open, you don't have market share. But
Yeah.
um, the I still have a sense that we're on the brink of either a shakeup or a breakthrough or however you want to call it. I think something is about to shift. If I could wave a magic wand, do I have a wand? I have a pencil or a pen. If I could wave a magic wand over the New York State Office of Cannabis Management, it would be A, that we get a communications director, B,
Ah,
that when you submit an application, it'll be kind of like when you submit an application for an elite private school where you get your own counselor assigned to you to interact with. And if you have a question about what's going on with your application, you email or call that human being as opposed to this vague, licensing at OCM email. And
God.
um,
Yeah.
Like I've got a number of clients right now. By the way, compliance issues are way up. Um, we've got it's not just the unlicensed smoke shops that are experiencing compliance issues. It's I'm trying to speak in general terms, so I don't give away any secrets, but it's processors, it's manufacturers, and it's not just a few. It's 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 a lot. It's a big percentage of the supply chain, and so um, when a person or a business has an application in that they are expecting to get a license, and they have one of these compliance issues, there's this ping it's do you remember that early video game Pong where the ball would just go across the screen and you would bat it back, right? So it's kind of like Pong, um, because compliance will say, "Oh, you have an application and you should be talking to licensing." So then you talk to licensing and licensing says, "Oh, but wait. No, if you have this compliance issue, you should be talking to compliance." And then at some point you get emailed the proverbial, I think I've seen it so many times. If I printed it, I could like wallpaper my apartment with um um the opportunities in cannabis, and be sure to apply, but guess what, you've missed this deadline, but there will be others. It's just this generic thing that they send out, and it really, I mean, you could say to them, listen, I am handling all of the business for Cheech and Chong, and Cheech and Chong want a New York cannabis license, and they would send you that very generic apply.
True. Hmm.
But it is what it is, and we do have an industry in New York. We definitely have a growing industry. We have people who are really engaged politically, and uh, a lot of a lot of people got into cannabis in the cannabis industry just because they wanted to build their own business, and they're having to learn about all of these functions of government and all of these functions of dealing with a state agency. It's not it's not for the timid. I've got some people who are currently, in my work, in my world, I'm busy. I'm busy running for office, but I'm also busy running my law practice, and my law practice is filled with clients who have a license and need an investor, or the opposite is true, where an investor has contacted me and said, I'm I'm wanting to partner with somebody who has a license. Usually those are the card licensees, right? So putting together these agreements, because you need to make some sort of contract to bring those parties together. And then once you've put them together, how are they going to operate? You need an operating agreement that shows how the money flows through. What happens on that closing day when everybody signs? Does money change hands? What happens on opening day of the dispensary? Does money change hands? What happens in the life of the business? Who's paying is the investor paying the expenses, or did the investor put everything up front and then the business has to carry itself? And it's different in every deal. Um,
Did someone refer
and our
this week that I referred to you?
I don't know.
Well, they were supposed to mention my name because they're seeking an investor. And and
Oh,
very respected human in the industry. And I said, check with Paula Collins because,
oh yeah, it's quite a thing. So I'll ask you offline,
yeah.
and maybe honestly, every like you've had a heck of a week. How long were you in Albany for caucus? Was it all week?
So I had a job interview on Thursday in Albany. And then I spent the night there, and then caucus started Friday. So I've been here
Okay,
since, well, there since Thursday.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So I mean, as you know, every day is like this mind-blowing experience, and I feel like I'm in that mode. It will settle down for me, but between buying property, looking at how to build a house on it, and now running for office, as well as just the cannabis industry, every day is
Every day, new things. So we launched the Buffalo Cannabis Network. I didn't launch it. Steve launched it. You're familiar with it. John's involved. Wendy
John
Francis.
is really promoting it.
Yeah. So I'm part of the board, and we have
Wait,
a
when you say Steve, Steve who?
my God, why can't I remember his name right now? He works for Thrive.
It's okay.
Um,
Don't worry,
I'm
it's
sorry.
okay. No,
Um,
it's fine. Don't worry, you're tired. And what's in a name?
exactly what it is, Steve. But that's his first name. And then John, of course, and Wendy Francis, and myself, and Tom Spanos.
Oh, Tom's there.
And
Good.
we're the board, and we're trying to find just the community of Western New York feels so left out, right?
Right.
So how can we voice in our community as being connectors? So naturally, dots plays a big role in here, and you know we're a volunteer organization, but each week we're seeing more and more people come in. Meaning, like 2 weeks ago or a month ago, whatever it was, last happy hour, um, I met three growers from like not far away from where I live here in Buffalo. And like, I didn't know they exist because there's all this DBA stuff. Do you have any idea how hard it is for someone to figure out, like, 1 minute they're this called this, the
Mhm.
next they're this, and then on the social media there's something else. So there's a whole lot going on, and keeping up with it is like a lot. Um, but I feel like the Buffalo Cannabis Network is bring together community. So when I was at caucus, there's the New York Canna Chamber of Commerce, and
Mhm.
at I want to say Marvin, but I could be wrong. Not Marvin, maybe it was Melvin. Anyway, he headed it with several other people, and they were talking about expanding through the state. And I mentioned, that's an awesome idea, but like in Buffalo, in Rochester, there's already groups existing. How can we collaborate instead of having a separate group?
Yeah.
How can we almost merge that group as a two-party system?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I hear what
I,
you're saying. And we have James of Flatbush who has joined us. Good evening, James. And then we have John Bonventure. I may be saying your name incorrectly. It looks very French. And he says, "What about upstate New York?" And so that is an interesting distinction, right? Upstate versus Western. It's a big state. I'm so aware of it now that I'm running for Congress. It is a huge state. I lived in Texas a bunch of years. I thought Texas was big. New
mm,
York is in a way bigger in that you've
up,
got the mountains and you've got these areas where there's no cell phone coverage. So I know in my heart of hearts that we've got people growing who don't have internet. So they're not on LinkedIn. They're not getting the email from OCM. They're not hearing about an event that's in Albany. They're just in their hoop houses growing.
and that's the goal, though, is how do we get the education to the community, let businesses know about each other, and build like a voice in Albany? Because instead of having all these different silly groups, we should all be one person under the umbrella. And again, I'm using the umbrella of Normal, right? Normal is a huge organization that has little separate divisions. So technically, all of us are supposed to be working together for the whole mission of Normal. But that's not how it is. It's just there's some chapters that are very successful in Normal and others that are not.
Correct.
And so I mean, I use that example not to pick on normal, but like, I don't want more division. I
Right,
don't
right, right,
want
right.
more, you know, this is the nurses for cannabis. This is the auto workers for cannabis. This is the, politicians for cannabis. This is the police for cannabis. Like, it's for cannabis.
Well, and that's such an interesting point. And my dear colleague Joseph Bondi talks about how before the MRTA, we were in some ways more united because we were all interested in access. We wanted legal access to these products. And now we have these different groups, and each person is, trying to jockey to be first to the market, and that is important. But now I would dare say we're in a new chapter, and it's caused by the fact that we've taken that um, cultivator license, the conditional cultivator license, allowed people to cultivate, process and manufacture and distribute. And now
Yeah.
those three things are going to split off from the cultivator. So it's very possible that a farmer who doesn't get the paperwork together because they're too busy farming, um, we're all busy doing the thing we're supposed to be doing. And it's very possible that we're going to have farmers who will see their profits plummet because they're going to have to hire a processor or a manufacturer and then hire a distributor to get those products to market. In that sense, it really does make sense to look at the micro business license. But then when you look at the scalability of the micro business license, it's really hard. And in some ways, it's almost going to take a general manager just to make sure that you're always in compliance in all three license areas. And that's all that person would do.
Right. And there's so much to it all. I mean, I think people think that like everybody's just focused on the money. Well, like you running for Congress, you're understanding a whole new set of things that you had no idea were coming. And now you understand why, you see politicians literally like begging for donations because they need that to help advertise, to
Mhm.
help, you have staff, have
There's just so much
basic.
noise in the messaging. It's not like we all get to go on a stage and kind of do debate club. It's not like that at all. But I think also you said that phrase that really resonated with me. People think it's all about the money. And I I struggle with that with my with these deals that I'm putting together with different people. It's really not about the money. For a lot of the investors who are coming in from the unlicensed market, they've got, bags and bags of cash. Um Literally. And it's not
They
about the
can't
money
put
for them. It's about security, and it's about a future because they see the writing on the wall. How long do they have in the gray market? They don't know, but they see the writing on the wall. And if they have, two brain cells to rub together, they are then reaching out to somebody like myself or some other. There are people who are making a living right now just being matchmakers. I could see Nikki Lawley being successful at that, but just letting it be known, hey, I'm putting together people because honestly, this week I had 2 different deals fall apart just because when we all sat at the table, we realized it was not gonna be a good match. So, um
sort of like getting a job. You know what I'm saying? Like if the employer and you can't come up with an agreement that works together, you probably shouldn't be working together.
so I wanna
you
get back
know,
to
and
John's comment. What about upstate New York? John, if you're still there, type into the chat, what are your specific needs or questions about upstate? And are you differentiating from Western New York? I mean, like, from where I am sitting right now, same town that the governor lives in, by the way. Um, the governor announced that she now lives in Manhattan. Um, it's all upstate, but Western New York has a very different vibe from the Adirondacks in a very different vibe from like Troy, New York or Albany, New York. And it's all good. And then we never talk about the southern tier, that it
Yeah,
feels like Pennsylvania, but I mean, first of all, there's absolutely gorgeous land there. Yeah.
there is. And, you know, it's a big thing though. I feel like the community really, and I know we say it a lot, needs to come together, but like we really do, guys. Like more
Oh,
bullshit organizations trying to run their own, campaign when we've already got a great group started. Let's build on that existing group. We don't need another chief. We need more Indians. We need more people doing the actual work. A
yeah.
title means
Yeah. So John says he's in the North Country, Watertown, and up that way. Um, John, I'm headed to Watertown on Tuesday, actually. Watertown, New York, and North Country. I've got two cases on in Jefferson County Court. Um, Judge
boom.
David Renzi. Yep. Very law and order kind of part of the world. They uh they believe in enforcement in Jefferson County, New York. Um, and I will be there to represent. But Watertown and that North Country way is actually that is where I'm running for office. I don't know what your zip code is. I lost Watertown and Fort Drum, but I have a lot of Jefferson County still. Um, I think that what I hear mostly in that part of the country is just poverty, and they're willing to try cannabis as a way to get out of the cycle of poverty. It's not just about getting high. For some of the people, it's about getting high, but for other people, it's an alternative product to either grow or manufacture or sell. Um, oh, you're in the ICU right now. I'm so sorry to know that. I hope you get better. I hope you get some good therapeutic plant remedies
Somehow.
somehow. Kind of hard in a hospital.
I
Um,
know.
from
That's
experience. Yeah.
yeah, I do. Um, well, John, if you want, reach out to Paula or I and share some of your concerns. We're both on LinkedIn. Um, we're just really trying to do what we can with what we have right now, trying to make a difference for as many people as we can with our little podcast here. And can I say, like, a lot of people like watch us.
Oh,
Like,
is that right?
oh, I saw you on your podcast with Paula. I'm like,
I
yes.
think
They're
very
like,
few people that very few heard that Messina is suing the reservations for having tribal dispensaries in their city. Well, that's going to be an interesting one. I want a part of that lawsuit. I have a lot of interesting perspectives there. It really depends on the lines of the tribes have a lot of property up there. Um, but very few people stay with us the whole hour, which is fine. I mean, everybody's got their lives and it's a Sunday night, um, but yeah, I'm glad to know that people know about us.
yeah. Oh, you and the lawyer.
The lawyer. Yeah.
You're the lawyer. The
Oh,
lawyer.
you too, John. Thank you for making a difference. I think it's important to hear from everybody.
Everybody has a voice. We must use it,
And John says
or we
both
lose.
of you. Yeah. So that's for you too, Nikki.
Thanks, pal. I would.
And now
I would.
wait. I saw this sign that said Nikki for president. Are you running for president?
You're so, no, but I'm for now for Buffalo Cannabis Network and Canna Coverage, the insurance people. Canna Coverage is like busting butt to get some uh, coverage with insurance companies for the medical aspect. And also, they do everything. They do everything from employee benefits to like all the normal insurance things like property and casualty, workers' comp, everything. And Jeffrey and Nichelle are some of the most amazing humans. So Canna Coverage is based out of New Jersey, but they're licensed in like 30 something states. So, or
Mhm.
have relations, they can do it. But the New York market is really, that's something that's not being really addressed and talked about a lot. Meaning, like somebody goes to get a dispensary license and they're like, "Oh shit, we need insurance," you know, or the farmer is like, what's the deal with the crop insurance, or if I get spider mites, what happens to my $70,000 crop that I've been feeding?
Well, and I think they can't get crop insurance. I think that's true, but I was rather surprised that the, applications don't require proof of insurance. We have to show
Yeah,
a certificate
so
of
basic.
occupancy, we have to show a signed lease, not a copy of a lease with everything blank, but a signed lease, and then, to me, it would make sense, to require that we would
Require.
upload. I mean, if I'm waiting for my car to be delivered, I'm still waiting, but I had to show proof of insurance. So James of Flatbush has interesting news. Even heard rumors that MedMen is closing the dispensary in Syracuse. Now, I gotta say, I didn't know MedMen had a Syracuse dispensary. I've
We have
walked
one in
by.
Buffalo.
Oh, really? I've walked by the one over here near Bryant Park, and it just looks kind of dismal.
Yeah. I've heard they don't pay their bills, so they're having trouble getting product in. They can only have their own products. And,
Well, I
like,
think MedMen is one of those reasons that people think, if you say, "Yeah, I'm in cannabis," they think, "Oh, you're gonna make millions."
uh,
And I think
well,
MedMen is
there's
part of
a lot
that
of,
myth.
yeah,
Well,
there's a lot of scummy stuff going on with MedMen early
yeah,
on.
and has been for years, and it's like scummy stuff would come out, and then they were able to do a big capital raise. And that, what does a capital raise mean? It means that they were able to get people to give them millions of dollars. And then more scummy stuff would come out, and they would do another capital raise, and more scummy stuff would come out, and they did another capital raise. So, in a way, I'm kind of like, yes, somebody finally realized, do not give these people any more money. But millions of dollars later, I mean, like,
Millions,
million,
probably
close to
billions.
100,000,000, or at least 100,000,000. And so,
Wow.
um, too bad, so sad, but well, here's a question. Oh, we are coming up on the hour. I shouldn't start this question.
We are
Next week, you know what I wanna talk about? I wanna talk about the viability of the smoke lounge, because as I talk to these investor and licensee pairs, we're all like, "Okay, so you had property and you had property. Which one? And what are we gonna do with the other one?" And so a natural thing would be, well, let's see if we could get it licensed for a smoke lounge. But we don't know the timeline on that. We don't know how it all works. I mean, there was the smoke
and
lounge
we need to
option.
talk about
We need to talk about what?
filtration and indoor air
Filtration?
quality with the smoke
Oh, the
lounge.
Clean Air Act. See, you're talking about
Yeah.
congressional work again. The Clean Air Act.
Well, I'm the filter queen. Like, that's my
That's
former
right,
life.
that's right, I
So
forgot about that. Well,
yeah.
so
Well,
we've
friend.
got 2 minutes, anything in our last few moments here?
Well, hopefully everyone saw that I was on the OCM promotional stuff. Myself and Esther were speaking with the
Was
OCM.
Esther at caucus?
Um, if she was, I didn't see
Okay,
her. But if Esther was a different outfit than she was when I met her on my Zoom call, I probably wouldn't have recognized her either way.
okay.
So, but Esther was awesome. We really came from two separate perspectives, so it was kind of a really engaging conversation. Um, and I learned stuff. If I'm not learning, like, we need to literally learn as much as we can because
Mhm.
other people.
Yeah,
So I guess
absolutely.
night, my friends. But we will be back. Yes,
We
next
will be back next
will be
week.
next week, Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to reach out to Nikki, Lawley, or Paula Collins. We're here for you
Find
guys.
us on LinkedIn. Bye, guys.
Bye.